if you are not able to recognize how to build AI into your different workflows, whether you're building a diagnostic or a monitoring, there is a play for everything, either in terms of efficiency or
put two and two together? How do you go for 5 years running an organization that you're not drawing a salary?
if the company were doing well, you would get the motivation. You would raise up and say, hey, I'll go figure this out. I've seen enough. This is not going to put me down.
Wait, Ashwin. This is interesting. So you're telling me that when you knew you had an issue, you only had enough cash to flow you for the next 2 weeks. You actually were forthright with your teammates that, hey, we have 2 weeks unless something magical changes. Very interesting.
Probably one of the most important questions you've asked, because when you spend your so much energy into building a company, it's the first thing you think in the morning, pretty much all day, and then the last thing you think before you go to bed. And it does get intertwined with your identity, doesn't it? I really didn't even pay attention whether it was doing that or not, Martin, honestly. I would say it's a very personality driven thing. And if you feel that, it is starting to be your identity, you really need to take a good hard look at it, because nothing is permanent.
Welcome to the Immigrant Pod. My name is Martin. I am your host, and today we have a tremendous, amazing guest. What I would like for you guys to take from our conversation today is that your story matters. Your story should be told, because generations from today, your grandchildren, based on the impact you leave on this world, will look back and talk about that immigrant that was first generation that came to America or came to Dubai or came to Lagos or came to London and changed the community and left this beautiful legacy that 100 years from today we'll be talking about you. Today's guest is not just a founder, he is a builder at the highest level. In 2016, he won the Shark Tank, an engineer who helped shape cutting-edge microprocessors at AMD, a patent holder and CEO behind a company that is redefining how we detect and treat neurological disorders. But this story isn't just about innovation. Was something deeply personal for him. When obsessions are turned into breakthroughs and breakthroughs turn into impact at scale, we immigrants change society. This is part of the reason why we migrate. We're looking for better opportunities. We're looking for a place where we can flourish and touch society. Today we go deep inside the mind of someone who didn't just enter one of the hardest industries in the world, healthcare, hardware, and AI. He chose it because to him, this is where he would have made a difference that actually did matter to him as an individual. Sir, welcome to the Immigrant Pod. What say you?
Thank you for having me, Martin. Great to be here.
Ashwin, so we were talking earlier and we were looking at how life has really rewarded you to the place where you and I are having this conversation. When you were the 2016 Shark Tank winner, what drove you in that direction? Why Shark Tanks?
I was a first-time entrepreneur at that point, and I was motivated by making a difference to my cousin who grew up with a severe form of epilepsy. At that point, I was an established engineer with almost 11 plus years of experience. However, I'd never built a company. And why would anybody believe that I could build a company? It's not about, engineering skill set or speaking skill set or anything in particular. It's a completely new world, and it's a complex world of a lot of things coming together. So that event gave me an external validation opportunity. That event really was the first inflection point that I set for myself. An organization like the Epilepsy Foundation validating my effort and giving me recognition would be something that I thought would set the ball rolling, and it did. So it was a planned move, and I set a deadline. I worked a year prior from it, and went in there, and it was successful.
When you say it was successful, what does that success look like for you?
Success for me was very clear. I had to win the award from the judges, but luckily for me, success was better because there was another award called the People's Choice Award. So Zedo won both the judges and the People's Choice Award, and we got two $75,000 checks amounting to about $150,000 of the total $200,000 they were going to give away at that event. So we maxed out as much as we could. So that was success.
Okay. At that point in your life, to get to your goal, you needed funding that would get you to that goal. And so being able to come with a product that gets you to that goal, that was success. So what's the difference between where you are now and 2016?
So 2016, when I said success, it was what it set off, because soon after that, I was able to raise close to $1 million because it provided the validation that came from a certified organization that could put a stamp on what I was doing, and that generated, my friends and family came over. Investing, right? And then and a few others, a lot of neurologists and doctors came over investing. So that's what I meant by success, not that event itself, because that amount of money can only give you so much, but it set the ball rolling for me as a first-time entrepreneur in terms of announcing that here I am to persist and persevere in building this company. I would need your help. Please join me on my journey. When you ask me to compare where I stand today, it's a whole lot different, but I think the passion and energy always needs to be raw and pure. So that never changes with whatever endeavor you're trying to pursue, because you have to wake up every day and do it, and you need to love it. Only then time doesn't feel like it's a grind. It feels like it just comes naturally to you. What comes naturally to you and easy to you is the most important. You need to identify that, which might be super hard for somebody else. You need to know your advantages, your arbitrage opportunities. So knowing oneself is super important. But I don't want to digress too much. But what I know today and I have today is that of an experienced entrepreneur. I know to put the whole full story together on day one. When I look at new opportunities, I'm able to see how will I take this from 0 to 1? Who are all going to be the people that I bring to the journey? And how is it going to impact healthcare, for example? How is it even going to plug into the clinical workflow? And then eventually, how am I going to create wealth for myself and all the shareholders that I got involved who believed in me and came along, right? I'm able to better see the whole story. I can never say with guarantees, but you have a better picture. And hence, and also the years of network and the people I've gotten to know along the way are behind me in passive ways, not directly handing me a check, but helping me, connecting me, calling me up and saying, hey, I can connect you to this person. So everything just comes together. So it's reaping the rewards, and entrepreneurship is compounding. Just because even if you fail, it compounds with effort, because what you have become through the journey is much more. So that's really where I am today, and I love it.
Excellent. So A family member is the reason why you turned into entrepreneurship. Walk us through how you are able to convert pain into purpose.
So what motivated me was a family member being affected by that condition. So it was more motivation than pain or any direct pain that I had been put through. However, that became kind of the fire that would never die out. That I recognized that I had to go and build on something which I would wake up for every day. And I think that was a really good decision because, in the first 5 years, I did not draw a salary from the company, and it was only something that was pure passion and an obsession to go change, which came from the right motivation, would have been able to bring the true cost for that. So that was really the connection, and that's the answer to your question, I guess.
So let's get into entrepreneurship because we really are into it right now. So you say the first 5 years of you running your organization, you did not draw a salary.
Yes.
The question most people that have not gotten into entrepreneurship will ask is, how did Ashwin survive? How did he put two and two together? How do you go for 5 years running an organization that you're not drawing a salary?
Yes, good question. So, um, I made ends meet. I during that time, uh, we did cut expenses as family, and tried to push along. We The company had raised a ton of money by then, so it was not for the lack of ability to pay, but I'm a founder with significant equity in the company, and I was moving the company forward at a good pace. So I just feel like, cost of capital is high, and it's okay. I'll get paid downstream later, hopefully on an exit. So it was almost a choice of uh, postponing it, than saying I'm choosing not to get paid. Uh, I would not say this should be the case for every entrepreneur. That was, it was my first baby. In hindsight, I would say every entrepreneur needs to get paid, or at least have an accounts payable towards that, because it is the value for your work, and when you're putting in that amount of work in building a company, you shouldn't be shy in getting rewarded for it. So in hindsight, I would say it was more a moment of, from the heart decision. But in hindsight, if I think it through, I would not do that again. I would have gotten paid, at least a subsidized salary.
In your first 5 years of business, what's the one thing that you learned that has completely shaped how you look at business?
In the first 5 years, I would say it was all about, will this product serve the end user the way we are envisioning it to? So it was all about seeing that and continuously going back to the team and figuring out the changes and the tweaks. The second part was very internal. We were, in a way, building a culture within the company, which was, we have our backs. Every employee has each other's back, and we were having a total fun culture. We were just enjoying what we were doing. It was all mission-driven people. The people that came to work for Zero were even from bigger companies, where, oh, these guys are trying to change something. They're going to try and change this industry. So for us, we started going after a very hard problem. And when people started seeing us making progress, they would come to us and say, hey, every time we see you, you're making progress. I might be one a part of your company. I know it's still young, but I want to be part of that journey. And they saw us going somewhere. So execution, repeated execution was giving us more momentum. It was giving us more people, and it was starting to become a flywheel. So, and then, we were also very customer obsessed. So it was starting to churn. And I love that about what we were building. It was conscious in terms of what we were focused on, but bringing back that to hey, we really care for each other and we're going to do this together as like a professional sports team. It started building more and more execution and became a flywheel effect.
On building your teams, for every entrepreneur out there or every ambitious immigrant out there that is looking to go into entrepreneurship, I think what's true with all entrepreneurs is the fact that you can't build it alone. You're gonna need to bring other people, other talent on board to help you be able to achieve your goal. What's the process initially for how you onboard talent that comes to support your vision in comparison to how your team now is onboarding talent?
So compare and contrast it to the early years versus now.
Yes.
So during company building, I mean, you're always building a company. I would say a founder needs to be involved in at least every hire in the first 300 people. It is super critical. There is no more important work than to be in the interview loop. The founder/CEO should have spoken to everyone that becomes an employee of the company. Sometimes even important contract work people, right? That's extremely important. You're evaluating for not just skills but chemistry. Will they carry the mission? Will they fit into the culture? Are they going to reflect the same goals of the organization? It's like every vector trying to point in the same direction. Because if you have that mismatch, no matter what kind of alignment you create, they might become toxic for the company. So initially, it's about also hustle, because you do not have high-powered recruiters to bring in these kind of people. There are different types of people who join the organization in different phases. There are people who are mission driven, are constantly looking for where do I go and work, which adds more meaning and purpose for myself. And those people come in inbound, they're watching you. So it's important for you to put the word out about the company in terms of, it could be blogs, it could be LinkedIn sharing, it could be going up on stage. When you're in conferences, you're speaking to people, and constantly seeking out and talking about what you're building next and why you're excited about it. And that becomes a magnet. You start attracting the right people. So earlier on, it was pull, and people would come, and then I would interview and bring them on. But later, as the company grows, you would employ the services of recruiters, talented people, because as you grow commercial, you're also trying to pull and poach people from other companies, right? So the game does shift a little bit, but you're still a combination of, this is a young, amazing company to work for, which is a pull effect, and also go and poach people from other places that might be heads down working at their jobs, but you might still need them.
Very interesting. Immigrants, if you're joining us on the conversation, follow us on TikTok and Instagram at The Immigrant Nation, Facebook, The Immigrant Nation Podcast, LinkedIn and YouTube, The Immigrant Nation Pod. Ashwin, you've worked on cutting edge technology. I mean, microprocessors are a complicated component of um, technology that has to be precise to get the result you're looking for. How does an engineer's mindset problems differently from the average entrepreneur's mindset?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Engineers' tendency is to build, and the hope is if you build it, they will come, right? And that is not an entrepreneur's mindset. An entrepreneur's mindset is, if I build it, will they come? And that is a big if, right? So although I was an engineer, like I said, I had this amazing professor who taught me new venture class, and then I did a stint at PwC in management consulting, and then started the company. By that time, I had it in me to go validate what this opportunity was. What was this problem I was trying to solve? It is not about the product. It's not about what I could build. It's about what is this problem that I'm trying to solve. You got to exercise your superpower, which is talk to people above, below, sideways, both sides, and get a ton of information about the problem you're solving, and why, if you build what you build, it would be successful, and how would it fit in, and how would it change healthcare. Healthcare is very complex. It's not just the best solution would win. There is a lot of other tentacles involved that you'll have to slowly unravel, and that does not come without a very determined and planned effort. So that really is the difference I would see. Engineers are very itching to go build, and once they kind of build a prototype, they are almost itching to, like, it works so well, let me go build it. But it doesn't matter. you know it could be the coolest thing, but it might not be solving the problem, and much less it's not going to generate the money that you're looking to generate. And hence, that's the main reason a lot of companies do end up pivoting. And healthcare, when you're solving problems that exist already, there is no reason to pivot later. You can ask all the questions up front and really have a better roadmap to start from the beginning itself, than to pivot later. Pivoting can happen with new tech companies that are visionary. You're kind of like figuring things out. You might be creating a new industry or a new market. Those more open to pivoting, but in healthcare, not so much.
AI has been in use in industry for a while. It's come to mainstream in the last 3, maybe 4 years. Um, how's that changing how you're doing business now?
So it's definitely not been as pervasive as you see in unregulated areas, like, for you shopping, or you asking, interacting with ChatGPT for, let's say, a legal question, or something else, or you automating some tasks. uh, you know in the world of, for example, diagnostics or therapeutics, it is playing an important role either in the background or for certain algorithms, but it's all being regulated by the FDA. So it's not like continuously changing under an FDA approval. It really needs to be working under a predetermined change control network, which is still very confined by the FDA. How do I see it affecting an entrepreneur and how they're building things? It is moving things fast. If you are not able to recognize how to build AI into your different workflows, whether you're building a diagnostic or a monitoring, there is a play for everything, either in terms of efficiency or improvement of your algorithm itself. In every which way, it is changing things. So, um, effectively, for us, the way I build is, where do I see my space in 3 to 4 years, right? and how do I plan to be there ahead of others is how I see it. And AI is going to make a lot of things multivariate, multimodal. For example, a lot of your data is going to be churned by AI models, and it's going to give you a better result. Whether you're predisposed to certain, you know, certain conditions as you age, or an early detection of cancer, AI is doing a great amount of work in bringing all this, for example, diagnostic data or your health data, or your lifestyle data, and starting to get better at sensitivity and specificity in addressing those needs. So those are areas that I see, and I'm getting prepared for as I build my next venture to be able to address that. And having that kind of mindset is going to be important than just working in within a in a particular lane by yourself. That might be detrimental 2 3 years because things are changing so fast.
Talking about things changing so fast, have you had a moment at Zito where you felt we are not going to be in business in the next day or week or month, and you and your team had to make tough decisions to pivot, and what was that like?
Yeah, about 3.5 years ago, we had about 2 weeks of cash left, and that was not because we didn't plan or I didn't see that coming. It was a failed term sheet, and I think the market was so bad at that point that the investor, who was already late in closing that that round of money, pulled out, and we had 2 weeks of cash left. So what did I do in that stage? I didn't even want to wake up every morning, because it was like, oh my God, I got to start again and save the company. But, you know, when it's your company, you get to work, and nothing stops you. So for me at that point, I had to just break it down to, okay, what do I need to survive for the next 3 months? Let's get that few million in, so that the company lives another day to survive. And then the other beautiful thing is motivation too, right? If the company were doing well, you would get the motivation. You would raise up and say, hey, I'll go figure this out. I've seen enough. This is not going to put me down. Yes, it was a tough situation that happened, but let me go figure this out. And also personally, when you have that motivation, when you have a good product, when you have great people, moving things along, it you don't need to seek external motivation. You fold your sleeves and get to work. Second, during those tough times, you will want to cut the noise out. You want to seek growth in a different dimension. And that was for me, I took to doing certain forms of meditation for about half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the evening. I started my day and ended my day with new. I took to yoga a little bit. I was doing meditation. It gave me a clean slate to start my day and a clean slate to go to bed with. And it was because, as a startup CEO, you are constantly getting hit by noise. And how do you refocus your energy on the most important things? That period taught me a lot about that. And when I came out of it successfully, not just successfully, ended up adding another 5-6 million within 2-3 months, I started to believe that there is a lot more to life than just powering through and just like solving problems one after another. It's about respecting and understanding within what's going on within, spending time in stillness and silence, gives you a lot more strength and conviction. So that was a period of growth for me in a different dimension.
That's very interesting, Aswin. As a founder, there those things that you have found yourself adopting and actually doing. For example, you talked about meditation, you talked about yoga, that allow your mind to refocus, to change, and the physical energy in your body to reboot. And are these things you learned as you went day by day and adopted over time? Or these are foundations you already had before you plugged into entrepreneurship?
Oh, no, I had none of these foundations. I would work out in the gym, keep myself fit, and not even eat healthy, uh, during my 20s. So, entrepreneurship is is literally standing out on the cliff, Martin. And if you don't care to grow, uh, your company is going nowhere, right? As a leader, you are constantly, every day you're put forth in situations where you need to be growing, and you also need to be sensitive and sensible enough to seek out new areas of growth, not just in the lane you are going, not just reading business books, not just reading product market fit or whatnot, right? There is there is other areas of psychology, and for example, physical energies, uh, mental faculties, that you really need to pay attention to. Health, for example, family life, having a balance, having that safe place that you call home, having that time to reboot with with your family over dinner. All those things are is extremely important. There is also a personality component that comes with every person, right? Some people need it, some people in different areas, of different levels. It's like an equalizer, in an audio. So you really need to calibrate yourself, like, where do I really need to push myself more and learn, and here in these areas I'm naturally good at, right? So it's super important to do that calibration every now and then and seek out growth, because honestly all this transforms into better conviction for you as a leader when you talk to your people, when you are going through tough situations, because it's your energy that's getting transferred, and to your coworkers, to the people you employ and hire, and the entire team. And that is really what creation is all about, right? And
Yeah.
it's I hope it's not too abstract, but that was my thought.
So this is something interesting. I'm glad you went here because most entrepreneurs will tell you there's a time in the season when in my business I really struggled. And then because I stayed with it and I kept pursuing the goal, we overcame that time period. But how do you communicate with your employees or your teammates around that season when you're going through a rough time period? How, as a CEO, did you reassure your team that we're still going to get to the other side of the game?
That's a wonderful question. Firstly, transparency is pretty critical. If you're not authentic and you're not, you know, uh, being transparent, employees can see through it, and you don't want to be.
Wait,
Po-
Ashwin. This is interesting. So
yes.
you're telling me that when you knew you had an issue, you only had enough cash to flow you for the next 2 weeks. You actually were forthright with your teammates that, hey, we have 2 weeks unless something magical changes.
So I wasn't explicitly scaring them with, oh, I have 2 weeks of cash left. I did say that, yes, we are running low on our cash balance. This was supposed to close, but did not happen. but hang in there. I'm going to figure out a way to find an alternative, at least for the short term. Um, and the belief was there, right? Like, you got to be able to tell them with a backup, which is, hey, there are several customers that are standing in line to buy our product. It's a product that which is fulfilling its promise, and we have brought it this far. Uh, but it was unfortunate that this situation happened. So, and given my track record of bringing the company this far, I'm going to go out and try my best. But I'm going to keep you posted on a weekly basis, on a almost every 2 week, every 2 days. I would give you updates. So for me, I would constantly, pass that information back, and we did end up raising money on time. And that itself, when you kind of grab victory from the jaws of defeat, it brings another level of belief in people. So
Mm-hmm.
in a way, I'm glad it happened, because you start feeling pretty good as a unit, after close calls like that. So go out and give your best, and just have their backs. What's the big deal? Sure, okay, if you run out of cash, what happens? Big deal, right? It's not the end of your life.
No,
And but at least we built something which was already beautiful. So that's how I spoke, and it turned out okay.
fantastic, fantastic. Congratulations, by the way. So, your technology allows brain monitoring in places it was never possible before. ICUs, ERs, even homes. When did you realize this is going to change lives at scale, your technology?
That very moment was when I think we had our first or second customer. I think it was our second customer. It was put on live. They put the headset on a patient, and I logged on and I saw the patient live, with video streaming through, and their brainwaves, all 20 plus channels running across my screen. And that's when I had goosebumps. I was like, wow, this is something quite cool. It's never been done before, much less in medical diagnostics. And I called my wife immediately, and she thought I had an emergency or something. She got out of the meeting, and she answered the call, and I was way more excited than she was. But that's when I realized there was something special there.
Tell us, tell immigrants who are plugged in what your product does and how it has changed the world for those who benefit from it.
Yeah, so I founded and built Zeto for 11 years, and I ran it as CEO until July 2025. And since then, since July, I've stepped out, and I'm looking at new avenues, new opportunities in the neurospace. So just to set that context, and also from a product standpoint, what we built at Zeto has transformed EEG brain monitoring. If you look at, a patient, all their vitals are being monitored, even in a critical care setting like an ICU or an ED, but not the brain. But the brain, in an unconscious patient or even in a semi-conscious patient, they could be going through what is called a series of seizures. It's called status epilepticus, which is fatal. And if it's not detected and addressed quickly, it could be life-ending. So one of the aspects that our product does is, handle that very issue for patients in the ICUs and EDs, where status epilepticus is detected with an easy to use headset with a handheld device that gets the live video feed, and a neurologist can see it live from wherever they are, from a remote device, and and inform the nurse for immediate care. In the physician office setting, it's less of an urgent situation, but more a screening test where people come in for either epilepsy, seizures, or aging-related memory or cognitive issues, and brain activity is monitored, and reports are generated for neurological issues. So this is how we have transformed. Prior to that, access was very limited. Number one, in the ICUs, it was not possible, or it was very limited because they had to glue down wires onto the head and do it with big, expensive on-premise equipment. There was no cloud, there was no remote ability to log in and stuff. And in the physician office, again, they had to have a dedicated person who knew how to hook it up and had been certified in this process to come and do it. So we have basically transformed that and brought neurological care, neurodiagnostic care to another level.
Very interesting. So tell our listeners where they can find you on social media, my friend.
LinkedIn is the best way to find me. Ashwin Gunasekar, ASWINGUNASEKAR, and reach out to me. I do check LinkedIn. You could message me, and that's mainly it. Otherwise, I'm not too active on personal social media. I kind of tend to reserve it for just close family and friends.
Excellent, Mr. Gunasekar. What is very exciting in your life right now?
That I don't have a set schedule. I really love it because I think my brain cells are now thinking out into the wild open. And one of the things that I love is I set my day schedule as I want it to be. So I just love that freedom. And when you have freedom, it also puts you back in discovery mode. And discovery mode needs you to be just kind of wallowing around and doing things that interest and excite you truly. So I seek out things, I chase things as I find them interesting, and I've also been spending a lot of time with family. So it's been a really good time right now.
Very interesting. So you said sometime, I want to say in July, you stepped away from the role of the CEO after building something this impactful. How do you separate your identity from the company?
Oh, that's probably one of the most important questions you've asked, because when you spend your so much energy into building a company, it's the first thing you think in the morning, pretty much all day, and then the last thing you think before you go to bed. And it does get intertwined with your identity, doesn't it? I really didn't even pay attention whether it was doing that or not, Martin, honestly. I would say it's a very personality driven thing. And if you feel that, it is starting to be your identity, you really need to take a good hard look at it, because nothing is permanent. At some point, you are going to be away from the company, and you don't want to be affected by it. You don't want to be down because of it. And I would say, so for me, luckily, that did not happen. Maybe it was just organically. I'm a person of high self-worth, and I have varied interests, and I would say it's really kind of going back to who you are, understanding aspects such as self-worth, and understanding what the identity question is, and having a balance in life too. All right, despite working really hard, you should have who you are as a person, being separate from what you're building. Super essential, else it might affect you later uh, once the once you're separated from some form, even from an operational capacity from the company.
Ashwin, let's double down and go back to the very first days you started idealizing your product, when you started the ideation process before you went to Shark Tanks. What was going on then in your mind, in your life?
That's a great question again. It was, I think for me, it was unbounded energy. Um, my mom raised me with a mindset that if you dream of it, commit to it, and apply yourself and put in the hard work, you can achieve anything. So for me, once I had locked in with a very methodical process that this problem exists and it fit within my domain expertise, luckily for me the product was that of an electrical engineering domain expertise which I had. It was all deliberate by design too. I felt like the rest of it is go get it done. And so for me it was very factual, a lot of raw energy, and hope that I'm going to be starting out and building something exciting. When you have worked all your 12, at that point I worked in the industry for about 11-12 years. It was very structured days, and then the initial 1 month was me sitting in my my basement office. My work clothes were my shorts and my t-shirt, and I would be just looking at market and preparing some slides and doing some engineering schematics. It was very unstructured. It was also very unsettling, but you get on with it. The structure starts forming as you start making progress. And then it's like you look at any other company, everything started with one man or two people, or a man and woman. Everything started from potentially a garage or a small office, right? So you kind of look to that and draw parallels and say, well, let's make progress every week. That's all that matters, and everything else just falls in place after that. And keep putting a foot forward.
For those immigrants who are watching our conversation, by the way, immigrants, thank you for staying this long with Ashwin as he's delving deep into his story. If someone's watching this and is dealing with a problem that is a personal problem in their life, and they want to fix the problem, and they feel there's a need in the marketplace for their solve, for their solution, how would you encourage them?
Validate the opportunity first.
What does that mean?
It's not enough if you it's not enough if you think there is a problem. Go talk to every person that is involved with it, either in experiencing it or delivering a solution for it. Talk to all people involved, up, down, below, sideways, and get the true picture. Conduct surveys, get more than 100, 200 responses, and let the data speak for itself. Do not make the mistake of assuming your opinion is really what the situation is. You might actually have a very informed opinion because you come from that space, but still validate it, because there might be things that you don't know yet. So validate the opportunity first, and be very sure that if you build it, they will come. Number two, make sure you have domain expertise in the area. You cannot say, hey, I'm going to go build cryptocurrency trading platform when all you have done is just traded cryptocurrency, right? What domain expertise do you have in building that? If you don't, it's okay to have the vision, but go find a co-founder or a partner who has domain expertise in being able to build that product. So those are two important things that you'll have to pay attention to before you commit yourself in a long period of your life, potentially, towards chasing something. Be methodical, be systematic. You can turn a lot of those downstream pivots and potential failures, or shutting down the company itself, to better decisions and starting off in the right direction up front.
I am amazed by when I sit down and talk with immigrant entrepreneurs. The things they throw at me sometimes just blow my mind away, right? They're so basic, yet so true and so important, right? Validate the idea, have domain expertise. Is like, come on, right? Those are some fantastic ideas, but they're so basic to the core of what any entrepreneur may need to be able to get to solving a problem that they identify before they plug in time and money and realize that it was not worth it. So thank you. That's what I call a gold nugget in our conversation. Ashwin, if this was the first time we met and the last time we met, what's the one thing you'd want me to take home?
Hey, Martin, you kind of cut out. Can you please repeat the question?
Of course, certainly. If this was the first time we met and the last time we ever met, let's assume we met in the elevator, what's the one thing from our conversation you'd want me to take home?
Be authentic, fight for something valuable, and never take no for an answer.
Wow, that's great. I appreciate that. So, what's the one question I was supposed to ask you that I have not asked you yet?
I didn't expect that question. You could ask me a ton more. One thing is, what am I going to do next? I guess I'll put it out on LinkedIn. Working on some exciting stuff. I don't know which one I'll pursue, but it'll definitely be at least interesting for people following me as to what I'll be putting my next few years into. So.
Very interesting. So what are you working on next?
Still looking at a lot of opportunities in the neuro space, neurological especially. For me, the brain's just a area which is just so mysterious, and still very few answers that we have on. So applying myself to a lot of intellectual stimulation in the neurospace is extremely rewarding and exciting.
For those of us who have a fantastic idea, and now we're in a global market where we have AI to help us bring our idea to maturity, how should we utilize AI effectively?
Oh, you got me on that. I, coming from healthcare, I haven't used AI in terms of, farther reach. So I don't have a great answer to that. So I'll pass on that.
Very good. Very good. All right. The brain happens to be a very technical organ in the human body. It's also very easy to be misunderstood from or misconstrued from the healthcare perspective, because like you have said, and I've had other experts say this, we've not put a lot of talent and time into understanding the human brain really well to be able to solve the problems that the brain is incurring. What are some of the opportunities that you can look at and you're thinking, if only there's somebody who can look at this aspect of the brain and find a solution for it into the marketplace?
I would. Oh, so just to add some color to your question itself. It's not the lack of effort or resources that is gone into studying the brain, it's just so complex. It's just so complex. We haven't been able to figure out, for example, how information is stored and retrieved. How does a brain actually perform cognitive functions, right? Like, how does it think? How do things come together? And what's the subconscious, for example? I mean, there's just so many layers. We don't even understand it a bit. We may be having some basic understanding, but not to the level of where we should be at, right? The rest of the body is more binary in nature. Heart pumps, puts out blood. Yes, the blood circulates. Lungs bring in the oxygen. You can put the functions together. But the brain is the the very source of creation for a lot of things that humans have done, right? So for me, it's really fascinating, and I think we're getting to a point where that's going to accelerate. So adding that color, where do you think I uh, a lot of effort is going in and should be going in? There's a lot of effort into BCI now, because the next level of differentiation for AI companies is, how do I tap into the brain directly without having you to type in and ask ChatGPT a question, or ask Claude to code something for you? How can I tap into the high bandwidth brain directly? So there is this brain computer interface stuff that's catching a lot of steam. It's almost now like, how can I add a tab to my valuation and say there's more differentiation to my AI company, especially foundation model companies like
Yeah.
OpenAI.
Yeah.
So it's, for me, it's like, I don't think the brain uploads and downloads information in ones and zeros. So there is a lot of effort going on with respect to restoration, which is, I can solve blindness, for example, or I can help someone control their wheelchair, or through the brain where they've lost motor movement, they can control movement of objects through an exoskeleton or whatever, right? So those are restoration. But will you put something into your brain which is invasive for enhancing yourself? Probably not at this stage. I wouldn't be walking around with anything that's surgically put into my brain, not for now. uh, so that thing is going, for me, I would say personally, I come from a place where I get personally motivated by things that are happening around me and people that are near and dear to me that get affected. So for me, aging related problems and neurodegenerative conditions are a big deal. It is, people say I'd rather not have Alzheimer's, but maybe cancer, because they do not want to lose control or not be able to think and act independently. So for me, um, those areas are near and dear to me. And how can we get a better way to have highly accurate early screening slash understanding of those disease conditions, and giving people a chance to take preventative measures early on in their lives. Decades earlier these starts coming out, but people find it only when it's in the later stage, when you can do nothing about it. So that area is very near and dear to me. So I'm putting some effort into that space now.
Excellent. Excellent. Listen, when you jump into the next calling that God may have for you, I think we should circle back and have a conversation and see what that exciting project will be in your life. We want to see the influence and the success you're bringing into healthcare, and how you're helping contribute into helping millions of lives across the globe. And we think that's such a noble calling, and we're here to support you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have been plugged into our conversation, I am speaking with Ashwin Gunasekar. What stands out about this conversation isn't just innovation, it's responsibility. You took something so deeply personal, something painful, and instead of accepting the limits of it, here is where your entrepreneur self stepped in, and you rebuilt the possibilities around what was not considered possible. You didn't just change how we look at epilepsy, but you changed how we respond to it. The problem that shake the most in society, immigrants are willing to step in and solve those problems. And this is why I'm so honored to have a conversation with you, because you're an example of what immigrants can do and have done here in the recent past. Aswin, thank you for coming to the Immigrant Pod. What's your final word?
Thank you, Martin, for having me. I think you're paying it forward by sharing stories and inspiring more uh, of immigrants to follow their dream, despite you know uh, their path already bringing them to a new country, setting home here and calling it their home here. I think you're giving them further fuel and passion to keep pursuing that dream and chasing their own independent dreams. So keep at it. Doing a fabulous job, and I was really honored and privileged to be on your podcast.
Sir, we can never have these conversations without men and women like yourself who have stepped up and raised their hand and said, "Here I am to serve." So thank you. Thank you for not looking away. Thank you for building when it wouldn't be easier or simple. And thank you for reminding us what's possible when you screw up that immigrant mind and say, I have to find a solution. Aswin, thank you for coming to the show. It's been fantastic having a conversation with you. And obviously, I'm looking forward so much to having a conversation with you the next time you're pursuing your next passion.
Thank you, Martin. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. For those of you who have been following our conversation, carry the conversation forward at TikTok and Instagram at the Immigrant Nation, Facebook, the Immigrant Nation Podcast, LinkedIn, YouTube, the Immigrant Nation Pod. Aswin, my man, I appreciate you. Thank you so very much. This has been fun. All right, let's talk soon. Thank you so much for making the time.